already with us.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome everyone to this Joint Staff Consultative Committee being conducted virtually with members and officers and representatives at various locations. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are in attendance.
Thank you, Chair. Can I confirm the following members and officers are in attendance and can hear us and that we can hear them? Councillor Elizabeth Dennis.
Here.
Councillor Raj Bakar.
Here.
Councillor Tom Platter. Not here at the moment. And Councillor Michael Muir, not currently here. Councillor Terry Hone.
Yeah, present, correct.
Lovely. Rebecca Webb.
Good morning.
Ian Cooper.
Morning, everyone.
And Keith Fitzpatrick Matthews.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay. And there is no other members currently online. Members may request to speak using the raise hand function, and the same function will be used to vote. The chair will notify you when it's your turn to speak. Are there any questions before we start? Okay, I will now hand over to the chair.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So item number 1, I have apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor Claire Strong, Debbie Eland, Lewis Franklin and Christina Kaur. Councillor Strong provided due notice and I believe Michael Muir intended to be substituting for Councillor Strong today. Councillor Muir isn't currently here, but I hope he's well and will join us shortly. Are there any other apologies? Nope, I'm seeing nobody indicate. So item number 2, minutes of the meeting held on the 18th of October 2023. I'd like to propose that we take these as read and approve them as a true record of the minutes of that meeting. Could I have a seconder, which I realise might be difficult for some members?
They can actually second it, but they obviously, as they weren't there at the meeting, but they still can move it.
Right. I'll second it for you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's of great assistance, Councillor Hone. I've just received a message from Councillor Plater who apologises. He will be joining us. He's just running late. Okay, so item number 3, Chair's announcements. This meeting is being audio and video recorded.
Sorry, Chair, we need to agree the minutes.
Oh, shoot. I'm so sorry. We do need to vote on the minutes. So they've been proposed and seconded. Could we please have a vote on those, colleagues? So using the virtual hands as Chanel indicated previously to vote. So those in favour of approving the minutes first. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
So I can take those as approved and lower hands. Thank you, Chanel. Great. And now I will move us on to Chair's announcements at item number 3. This meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings will be available on ModGov and the North Herts YouTube page. Members are also reminded to make declarations of interest before an item, and a detailed reminder about this is set out in the speaking rights under Chair's announcements on the agenda. So it brings us on to item number 4, which is the Staff Consultation Forum. Ian Cooper to present.
Thank you, Chair. You've got a couple of meeting on there. So I'll just run through a few of the key headlines from those. Members will note that we've been doing some work on both making space on floor 3. That's with the prospect of potentially letting out that floor, but also taking advantage of that to actually do a bit more of a clear out across all the floors. And that's actually both, creating space, getting rid of some files we don't need, but also making hopefully the office a bit more of a pleasant place to work. Has got a bit messy in terms of things being left around that probably didn't be kept anymore. There's been quite a lot of work on that, and that's been sort of ably supported by the property services team, and a lot of effort from lots of staff doing that, but I think it is working. It's a nicer place to work now. Note from the minutes that we've got the Deputy Chief Officer terms and conditions consultation finalised. We've resolved that. So that's going to move forward in terms of agreeing the pay and the notice periods for those officers, and then formally moving all the other terms and conditions onto Chief Officer as is required. Also note that the long service awards, we've implemented that quite a while ago, but we've been kind of considering various transitional changes to that. The last one we've done is a sort of a special sort of additional award for those that kind of caught in a sort of gap above 30 years service. So we've done an award to those and got some good feedback from those staff that got that additional transitional sort of recognition. So done that as well. You'll see obviously in there that we have now formally launched with staff the Meeting Free Friday, following feedback from councillors and considering that feedback. And we'll obviously keep regularly updating that at staff consultation forum and seeking feedback, as well as seeking feedback from councillors as well. So that's my summary of the sort of quite long notes. I'm trying to avoid anything that will affect Rebecca's HR update that's coming up next. But if you have any questions or anything else in there or anything I've raised, then I'm happy to answer them.
Lovely, thank you very much, Ian. So does anyone have any questions for Ian on the notes from those meetings? No, I'm seeing nobody indicate. All right, so I think we're just happy to sort of note the report and those notes. No, Chanel's shaking her head at me. This is the joy of jumping between multiple screens to see what I'm supposed to do. There we go. We are to approve by member consensus the notes from the October and November staff consultation forum meeting. So colleagues, can I see hands for those that are happy to approve those notes? Yep. Terry's raised a virtual hand. Can I find mine? There we go. Okay, great. So I think that those are approved. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next item I have is the information note and HR update. Rebecca Webb to present.
Thank you, Chair. A few points to run through on the information note, starting with 3.2. Recruitment continues to be busy for us at the council, and we have seen a significant increase in applicants despite slightly fewer vacancies. And this is due to there being a number of apprentice vacancies in the period. And we tend to get really high levels of applicants for those roles, which is a really positive sign for our apprentice scheme. We continue to monitor leavers data, which is shown in 3.3, and other than a slight slowing of turnover, there have been no significant changes since the last update. 3.4 shows the pay award that was agreed last month. The team understand the importance for our employees of having the award and the back pay as soon as possible, and so worked to ensure that it was paid to current staff in their November salary. National employers are preparing for the 2024 pay negotiations. They expect a pay claim from the national unions in January, and we're engaging in the consultation process with the national employers as usual. 3.6 gives an update on some of the learning and development activity, including our review of the learning management system. Our contract comes to an end in July next year. Personal development days and the support that we're providing for Meeting Free Friday. Inclusion Group continue their work on microaggressions and unconscious bias. They've attended some training and they're now in discussions around how this should be rolled out more widely. And we've created a subgroup from the Inclusion Group to focus on the gender pay gap action planning. So our 2023 gender pay gap figures are shown in 3.8. You'll see that there's a marked improvement from the 2022 figures. So 2023, we're looking at a mean gap of 15.5 and a median of 14%, compared to the 22 figures, which were mean of 19.5 and a median of 19.3. I think that it's clear there's still a gap. And it's definitely something we want to continue focusing on. So the action plan itself has a number of streams to it, but it will include things like continuing to embed flexibility and positive work-life balance at every level of the council, forming a programme of events to develop employees into senior roles, updating our recruitment documentation to explicitly encourage female applicants for senior roles, And we understand that we need to be doing this continually. So there's this continual review of the actions and ongoing research and benchmarking work to feed into that action plan. I'm sure I've said before, there's no quick fix for resolving the issue of the pay gap, especially for organisations with a gender profile like ours. And so work will be ongoing. And then finally, in 3.9, absence. Again, we touched on this last time, and although it's not unusual to see an increase of minor ailments in autumn and winter months, we are seeing an increase in absence, and we are continuing to monitor this. The absence, particularly in October, is high. So the HR team continue to provide advice and support to managers. We remind managers of the importance of communication during absence and carrying out return to work meetings to ensure employees feel fully supported. HR work closely with managers to support the more complex absence cases, including those related to mental health, which make up the majority of our long-term absence cases. And there's a lot of support for employee wellbeing, which I'll detail later in the discussion paper. I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Do you colleagues have any questions for Rebecca? Okay, so I think it's a very comprehensive report, and I think the comments around the gender pay gap in particular and the work that's being done there to sort of encourage women to take on positions that are further up the management structure is positive. Do we know sort of any of the reasons why our gap is starting to increase, and are we sort of able to really zero in and target effectively ways that we can further close that gap?
So there's a workforce profile issue where we have the roles that might traditionally be taken by males have been outsourced. So things like waste, and we have those roles that would be lower paid that might traditionally be taken by females, like customer services or admin based roles, and we have them in-house. We also have a male managing director. So those things will play a part. But the analysis is showing that there's despite having more female staff at the council, when we get to the more senior grades, so from kind of grade 10 upwards, we see less females in those roles. And that's why the work that we're targeting that space specifically. So that change in the wording around recruitment is really important. And the support for people moving into senior roles. We have run a Confident Women workshop in the past, which was really well attended, and we wouldn't rule out doing that again. What is very difficult to do is specifically say that particular initiative impacted in a positive way on the gender pay gap, but it's a positive thing that people enjoyed and we got really good feedback on, and so that means it should be enough for us to be doing it again. So yes, it's that area that we're looking at, and we'll continually review that action plan.
Okay, great. Terry.
Yeah, I think didn't we bring a very senior member of staff, new one, as a comment from Hars County Council? Was that Joe Doggett, I think? Yeah. Would that influence the numbers, or did it influence the numbers?
No, because a secondment isn't employed by us, and so what we need to do is the figures are based on employees, and Joe isn't a direct employee.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions on Rebecca's HR update from colleagues? Nope. All right, let me jump back to my sheet that tells me what I'm supposed to do with this. Here we go. Right, so this is an information note only, so we don't need to vote on this. So thank you very much for the detailed update. And obviously on the sickness and absence, I will boldly assume that management teams are also working with colleagues and making them aware of the health and wellbeing benefits that we provide as an authority, and we've been promoting internally things like flu vaccines as well as pushing the messaging on COVID boosters that's come through from the health authority in that space. I'm seeing nods as well. Excellent. Okay, so that brings us on to item number 6, which is our discussion paper, providing support for staff wellbeing. So over to you, Rebecca.
Thank you, Chair. Would you like me to run through the paper?
Yeah, if you'd sort of start the conversation off and then colleagues can talk around it.
Absolutely. Okay. So the council understand the importance of employee wellbeing and the impact it can have on engagement, productivity, recruitment and retention, and overall organisational effectiveness. The focus on wellbeing is in keeping with our values, so we work together to support each other to deliver the best we can. And there's a wide range of support that is provided to employees at the council. So this includes advice and support from the HR team and regular signposting to external support, policies and procedures to ensure consistent, fair treatment for everyone, flexible working options to support good work-life balance, and that might be a reduction in hours or compressed hours, or home working, term time working. We have a group of trained mental health first aiders. We run regular wellbeing articles, signposting advice, support, and giving tips around certain things. And we try to time these around external events that might be affecting people, perhaps their mental health. We're in the process of preparing an article on loneliness, bereavement, and suicide prevention for this month, because we understand that December can be a difficult time for people. We provide advice to managers to enable them to give the best support to their team members. Chair mentioned earlier the funded flu vaccinations for staff. We run regular financial wellbeing workshops to enable staff to make informed decisions when it comes to financial planning. And we've been running regular menopause kitchens, giving the opportunity for staff to come together and share experiences and discover what support and resources are available for them. And then we have the social and wellbeing group, which organises events for staff outside of work to encourage interactions across teams. And this is really designed, it came about really due to COVID and people feeling isolated, but has continued. Homeworking continues, people still may feel that way, but others just want to engage in that social activity anyway. We provide support to managers so that they can carry out regular one-to-ones, have that open door policy, that they understand and apply reasonable adjustments where necessary, that they fully support flexible working and encourage their staff to take annual leave. And then there are a set of external provisions that we use. So this includes occupational health, and they give advice on health issues and how they relate to an individual's role. Our employee assistance programme, which is confidential, independent, professional information and support. We have North Herts Be Well, which is our wellbeing and benefits platform. So in there we have things like support for mindfulness and sleep, as well as fitness and nutrition and discounts. A GP helpline, which is 24 hours to a 24-hour access to a GP. Support for carers, where we have Employers for Carers membership, and that gives access to a ream of resources for employees who are carers. And then signposting for various different other issues available on the intranet, and we've spoken about many of those in the past. And we continue to review what's on offer. We'll be carrying out a staff survey in spring to understand how visible this stuff is for people and how suitable it is for our staff.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you added that last point, because that was going to be my first question, because I was going to say it all sounds great that we've got all this stuff there, but how aware of it are our staff? Because if we don't know it's there, then it's not going to be accessed and utilized. So I think, you know, that survey in the spring is going to be useful. But obviously, in the meantime, do we feel confident that our managers know what's on offer, and if they have a team member who needs support, they are effective and able to signpost at that low level.
Yes, I think so. We have HR business partners that work with all managers and can provide that kind of at the moment advice. We're also moving from the intranet over to SharePoint, and that's giving the HR team an opportunity to review what it looks like and make sure that people can navigate where they need to be to get the information that they need. So I think that that's a positive change. We talk about these kind of things in SMG, and the Insight is a really good place for this kind of stuff as well. So yes, I think when we start to use other things like SharePoint and Viva Engage, I think that we can be even more sure that people have got access to this information.
Great. Kerry.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Rebecca, looks like we're doing great things here, and we should do it. It's very important, I think, that we're doing these things. So well done. Have we liaised with other local authorities who perhaps are trying to do similar things to us, and perhaps have some different ideas or some different ways of doing things that might supplement the tremendous work that we're obviously doing in this area? Are we talking with neighbours or any other districts, boroughs around that might be able to help, or even counties?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a heads of HR group that I attend, and there's various other HR leads in there, and we not just about well-being, but we have the ability to talk about what's happening in each council and make sure that we're doing the right thing for our own council. So there's a lot of sharing of knowledge and experiences in that group, and there's also an HR practitioners group. So there's a link at that level too. So yes, we are doing those checks and having those conversations.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Any sort of more questions or points to note from colleagues around staff wellbeing and sort of some of the things that Rebecca set out in the report, or perhaps is there something that colleagues feel should be included as part of this focus, but we haven't touched on? No. Wow. Well, I think then it looks like you're doing a really good job, Rebecca, and everyone seems to be pretty happy. I think in particular, I'm quite pleased to see that there is a focus on menopause, because, you know, as I think Councillor Strong said in a number of these meetings, that is an area that is often completely overlooked by employers. So it's great to see that that's getting a focus. I think it's also good that we've got that specific focus on men's health as well. And I know we've got the posters up in the office advertising the men's football group that runs regularly from Baldock Arena as well for staff. So I think that's really positive as well, especially when we think about the impact on men's mental health and things like Campaign Against Living Miserably and all of that work. And I think it's also really positive to hear that there's going to be a piece of work done around supporting staff with mental health as we move through the winter, because December is a very hard time, but so is that January and the narrative around Blue Monday. And then when those bills start to land as well, that's when we start to see, I think, historically, a lot of mental health crises at the start of the year. So it's good to know that we're supporting staff and we're putting measures in place to make sure that everybody can be signposted and there is a good range of help and support that we're able to give people in this area. So, right, well, colleagues, if we are all happy with that discussion paper and don't have anything further to add, we are asked to approve by member consensus the discussion, so the discussion paper and what we've had to say around that. So can I have a show of hands from members just to show that we're happy with what's been discussed on this, noting it? Yeah. Okay, I think that's unanimous from all councillors. Thank you, Chanel. And that takes us on to item number 7, which is future discussion topics. Let me quickly jump back onto my agenda paper, because I think we've got some topics that we've been thinking about. Here we go. All right. So obviously, the chart on agenda item 7 sets out what we've looked at previously over the last 2 years and then there are some suggestions for what we might wish to consider at future meetings. So over to colleagues, really, sort of what hot topics do you think we've got coming through that you'd like to have a focus on for the discussion topics? And very much open to hear Keith and Ian and Rebecca and Chanel's views on this as well. So one of them that I've got on there is face-to-face versus online learning and striking the balance. And I think sort of possibly that might be interesting to hear from staff how members of staff and employees are feeling about the virtual hybrid in-person side of things. But I can see that Terry and Raj have put hands up, so I shall ask Terry for his views first.
Yeah, the list there, suggestion ones, there's a few which jump out based on what we've learned today and what we've learned to we're doing in certain areas and the good job we're doing in certain areas. Very interested in diversity and changing workplace practices if that's necessary. Well-being, well, I think we did some things on well-being resources. Social media for recruitment, yeah. The other one was on there was face-to-face. I like the striking a balance between face-to-face online learning and face-to-face versus online. That is something which I'm not sure that we give enough attention to, but so that could be high on the agenda, but I'm not insisting any none jump out and say, I think that's an area where we have a problem, put it that way, but you might know better than us.
Great. No, I'm leaning towards the face-to-face and online personally, just because I'm thinking as well, we're planning ahead to a whole range of new councillor induction programme things coming up as well. So it might make sense to think about the whole learning and development piece in the round potentially. Excuse me. And also based on how much time we've got for these meetings as well, I think we could potentially look at, at least 2 topics for discussion at the next meeting. So I'd be quite happy to take multiple suggestions. Raj. No.
Sorry, no, I was just I'm muting myself. No, I was just going to say, I think Rebecca mentioned something about long-term sickness, so it might be good to just understand how we're managing sickness, just that we're keeping on top of it and getting people back to work. Yeah, so that was one that I thought would be quite useful.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because we get the regular reports and we are coming through that period of the year when we tend to see a lot more sickness as well. So it feels quite topical. So that might be an interesting one to note as well. Keith.
As somebody who's based remotely, I find that because we're a small team, actually doing face-to-face training can be quite challenging. Finding the time to release staff to go to DCO often is not an option. So I'm, as a manager, very grateful for the idea that people can do online learning. So that's my little contribution to that.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, we sometimes get overlooked because we're not in the DCO.
Yeah, so there's a wider piece, isn't there, that sits alongside the training and the learning development, and it's the whole organisation and making sure that everybody that works for and with us feels included and part of it. So when we're thinking about the discussion paper for next time, Rebecca, I think it'd be good to capture not just an L&D programme and the pros and cons of doing both things, but actually take that whole system holistic approach to it and reflect on how practical is it, what are the benefits, how do we make sure that staff feel included, how do we facilitate various types of learning that are going to work for elected members as well, and sort of where are the tensions in the systems, what can we do to overcome those issues, and how can we deliver a programme that is genuinely accessible and supportive for everybody that works for and with the council. And I think sort of sitting alongside that, Raj's suggestion of looking at the long-term absence management topic is probably good, but maybe framing that as thinking about how we're supporting people through long-term sickness and back into work. So taking it away from the HR type speak of it and focusing more on the employee and the individual within the process, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, any further suggestions or comments on this one, colleagues? Ian Cooper.
I think not for next time, but maybe the time after, given the work that the inclusion group will be doing on microaggressions, maybe for a following meeting, we could have something here around championing that through this group.
I'm very in favour of work around microaggressions and tackling conscious and unconscious bias. I think that's something that organisations can never do enough of. So absolutely, I think that's something to start working up. And there's a whole wealth of academic texts that I could lean into as well and reference, but I shan't. Excellent. Thank you very much for those suggestions, everyone. So we've got some good discussion topics planned for next time, and also starting looking forward to the meeting after next as well. So I think that's quite good. Okay, so that's the end of all the scheduled items I've got on the agenda. I don't have any other business item on this. However, I'm going to ask, does anyone have any other business or anything that they want to raise in this space?
Nothing cool.
No, thank you. I'm seeing no one indicate. Right then, in that case, I shall bring the meeting to a close at a very early time of 10:33. Thank you very much for your time and engagement, colleagues, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.